So what I want to share with you next is really this framework, which is it's source of a lot of different elements, but it's basically, it informed a lot of those decisions and how, let's say, I helped product leaders and businesses create machine learning powered solutions, which could have been decision support or AI. And what does that actually mean? How do you actually layer that onion? How do you start from where you are today? Because every business, every product has some sort of current state. And how do you scale it up and make it smarter so you reach that full automation? And this framework, by the way, you might seen a lot of versions of it. This is my version, which I kind of took on and, built up upon, kind of takes you as a designer from manual state, super manual state, to fully automated state. Progressively then allows you to identify exactly, okay, this is where maybe we are at, this is what we need to do next, or we could maybe jump ahead and try to somehow create full automation. But ultimately, there are several stages to human-centered AI experiences. So in the first stage, you're definitely going to have just the human. This is exactly where we're at today. And to be honest, majority, let's say 95% of the products and services are in this stage. They're nowhere near to be smart. Then we're reaching into more assistive realm, where you have the human in those roles using assistive AI. And then the last one is autonomous AI, which is, self-making of the decisions. It's not just assisting humans in decision making, it's actually making the decisions of its own and maybe having a little bit of a fallback of a management of a user role. So these are the three kind of bands. So in a manual world, you're going to have something like the unstructured data, let's say, which is everything. Let's say I have this whiteboard here, right? And if I write down or draw out a chart for you to explain something, that's going to be it. It's the most primitive way to store the information or to provide some sort of experience to the user. A next level of that would be maybe copying and digitizing, and that's the next stage where you have a data representation and a database of sorts. All that unstructured data becomes semi-structured because it's digitized. It could be fully structured so that it's easy to manage and reach and filter and search and present to the user. And it could be, again, accessible on demand. So through any means possible, maybe a phone, maybe a dashboard, maybe whatever you mean. And that's what makes majority of the digital tools and services today happen or work. Now, the chasm between that and the blue area here, with where you have humans and assistive AI, is a massive one. Because what's next is really how do you represent the data, but add a bit of intelligence. That's where you start applying the generative models and AI to it. I'm going to be entirely honest. Let's say when I worked on machine learning informed solutions or, generative computational science driven solutions, the technology, which is super smart, basically. But it's also so hard to reach for any designer to kind of craft together. Most of them ended up in the blue realm at best. The conditional automation, high automation, full automation, again, is like way ahead. And I'm going to explain exactly why. But you can imagine that, let's say, the AI, let's say in data representation state here, when you have all the database and you can make smarter decisions, AI analyzes those inputs and outputs and highlights the risks. So let's say for a user, it would just say, hey, you should maybe do this, basically, because I see some risks and some factors. The next one is the decision support. And the decision support is, again, this is exactly what we want when we speak with AI solutions, because we want to inform and drive human decisions for the better. We don't want to completely replace just yet, unless we can do it right, and we cannot do it right, and we won't be able to do it right unless we can decision support first. So this kind of scales bit by bit. But in the decision support, AI analyzes inputs, outputs, scores the risks, and then allows that to be interpreted by the human counterpart and action by human. A simple printout or a note could be a decision support, albeit it's not AI driven. It's very quote unquote stupid or dumb. AI would be a smart decision support, and this is exactly what we're talking about. And when as you can see, you always have a fallback. Human memory, processing, AI is creeping in as you progress throughout these stages. And in the totally autonomous AI realm, once you reach the decision support, you kind of reach this human conditional automation where AI analyzes those outputs and makes recommendations for a specific course of action. And this is already where AI could be basically telling the user, the human, that I crunched you millions of data entries and this is what you should be doing. Or let's say if you are, I don't know, a car mechanic, it's going to literally tell you by how many degrees you need to, tweak the wrench, let's say. The next level of that, of course, would be the higher automation where, let's say, the AI would then totally replace the human interaction and doing that wrench work and doing it for them. So there is no human backup ultimately. AI starts creeping into it. And then the full automation is that end result. This is years ahead where everything is automated, and it's not just one tool which is automated, but services, the systems around us are automated and we all link in, and everything is almost like Matrix world where human interaction is not needed anymore. So these are the stages. And of course, you could split them up, you could kind of dig deeper in if you want to, but ultimately it provides you with a framework as a designer or researcher to kind of go ahead and kind of say, okay, this is where we're at, this is what we could do next. And then apply the tools, because you can kind of engage with the right people, with the right structures, figure out the generative models and so forth. And UX actions of that, which I kind of very lightly peppered here and there, is about cognitive mapping, mental models, decision support research, etc. Things which people don't do enough in UX, or like almost nobody does in UX right now. And a lot of those experts who say that they're covering, UX AI, they're really just slapping product design, UI design, and calling it a day on AI technology. To do it right, again, you need to emulate what users do. Therefore, you need to understand how they make decisions and literally replace them, augment them, and then inform the generative models so that their decisions are informed with that technology. And that's when you're gonna have UX for AI. It's not just the visual look and feel to kind of like, through abstraction layers and just calling it a day. And that's where those different tools, of course, there's many more. And as you go through basically the automation, if you go to the assistive realm where you have humans and assistive AI, then you need to start making human-centered generative models. A good example would be the ChatGPT, let's say, and the research capability. They literally by accident probably arrived at that, but they created human-centered generative model to crunch and research a lot of data points and then spit it out to the users and kind of slapped a UI on top of that. Definitely not the right thing to do, but throughout a lot of trials and errors, they arrive at that. There's better ways to do that. And from my personal experience, like crafting machine learning driven platforms and solutions for your users, you kind of start with, again, human at the heart and then inform the AI, not the other way around. And so there's a lot of stuff we need to do as UXers. If you want me to cover more of this, do let me know in the comments. Maybe write a book, maybe cover another videos. It really depends. And why I'm really covering this? I'm covering this in this live stream because this is how you would need to go through creating any AI tools. And UX as a meta skill, tools for research or design are no different. For the designers, you are gonna, majority of our tools are here, and majority of our craft is in this kind of data presentation database. There's a few tools which creep into data presentation, the decision support, but not much. And so every single, if we want to replace or automate UX and inform our roadmap, every single tool and every single task or special action we do as specialists is gonna need to go through these stages and then replace us, because in next thing there's gonna be assistive AI and we are gonna act as managers or producers, as Nick Fine on one of the podcasts informed and kind of shared his thoughts. I definitely agree that our role is gonna become much more of a manager, of a producer, and we're gonna use assistive AI, and then shortly after autonomous AI, and only then we're not gonna be needed because everything is gonna be fully automated. So this is a primer, and a primer to inform what's to come.